Hi there, Jack Haworth here and my dad Craig for Corby Tennis Centre. Today I'm going to be interviewing the big bad boss of Corby Tennis Centre, who you might know a little bit about, but I just want to give you a better background into some of Dad's playing history, coaching history and his role today at Corby. So let's start right at the beginning. So Dad, how did you get into tennis?
Basically, my parents played. They didn't pick up a racket. My dad didn't pick up a racket till he was 35. And I started at around the age of 8. We used to live at the tennis club all weekend, every weekend, and a lot of evenings as well. He was brilliant at making sure that he would put half an hour aside for me at the end of every day. So whatever situation he was in playing a set, he would always make some time for me. And I fell in love with the game very early on.
And you got into competing quite reasonably early as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. So I was probably playing tournaments, little tournaments at age 8 and 9. Started to play some bigger ones when I got to 10. Made my first final when I was 11 in an under 12 event. It's the only time I ever lost love and love. 6 love was in the final on a hard court. And I went and had a lesson the morning of the final. And my coach at that point decided that was a good time to teach me to serve and volley on probably the slowest hard court I'd ever played on, and it didn't work well. It was an ugly match.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So you reached your first final at that sort of age, and then from what I remember at sort of the age of 12, and then carrying on there, you were playing good national tennis and international tennis.
Yeah, I played my first international match, so for Great Britain at the age of 12. That was a real nice experience. It was at Bisham Abbey. I can still remember it very clearly, playing against West Germany. And at one point, the England football team were all there doing their training for the World Cup. And so I was playing in front of, your Peter Shilton and Kevin Keegan and Ray Clements, and all the greats of the England football team were there. And I was this skinny little 6', 12-year-old trying to play some good tennis.
I don't think I've heard that one before.
Really?
Yeah. But that's really cool. So getting on from sort of the age of 12 and 14, playing good international tennis, and then you did turn pro reasonably young as well, didn't you? We're missing a few years, so if you want to fill in sort of between 14 and 18.
Well, that was really the time. I pretty much played full-time tennis from the age of 14. I was very lucky that I was enabled to do that at Queen's Club, which obviously is a lovely facility to go to. So I was travelling there when we were at home in England. I would be travelling down there most days to train with the other good top juniors that were around. And yeah, that was full-time really for 4 years.
Mm-hmm. What would you say, give us one or two of your best results from that time period?
Without a doubt, my favourite tournament by a long way was junior event at Wimbledon. I was very lucky. I had a tough first round draw and played the best match of my life. A guy called Karol Novacek, who was seeded, went on to be top 10 in the world in the men's, and I managed to beat him in 3 sets. And I'll never forget that, because it was the one match where I played where I absolutely was in the zone. Everything seemed to happen in slow motion. And I tried really hard to replicate that later on, but I was never able to get it back to the same level. And it was just such a beautiful moment to be in and a match to play in. So I won that in the first round, then had a really good draw. I think I had the Indian number 1 to play next, who wasn't particularly strong. So got through that one quite easy. And I then that was into the last 16. And I was up against the top seed, who was the number 1 in the world, a guy called Louis Courteau. There were other players that were better in the draw, so Pat Cash won it. Beat Ed Berg, I think, in the final. So it was a good
strong year.
Yeah, and there were lots of other good ones in there. And Louis was no mug. He was double-handed both sides.
Right.
Would let go and play single-handed forehands if he was stretched out wide, and was number 1 in the world for a reason. He was a good player. But I was also very fortunate. I got to play with a real good mate of mine who was number 1 in the country. I was number 2 most of the time through junior age groups, but the number 1 in the country was Paul Heath, and Paul and I made it through to the semis of the doubles. So that was a good event. And actually, so the same year, when I got to the last 16 in the singles, we had 4 Brits got through to the last 16 that year. And Paul and I made the semis of the doubles.
I'm not even sure if that's happened since then.
No, not in terms of volume. I'm not sure that it has. It may have done, I don't know.
So that's kind of taking us all through junior tennis, would you say?
Yeah.
It's a pretty good summary.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then you get into the adult game at 18.
Yeah.
What's happening then?
Well, in the spring of that year, when I was 18, I actually had a fractured spine. I had a stress fractured spine. I had a big serve. At one point, I had a headline of Cannonball Craig for having the biggest serve in junior tennis. Even that was when I was 14. That happened when I got that headline. But at 18, I had a stress fractured spine, so I was completely out of action for 3.5 months, not able to do anything at all. And that was just prior to the grass court season. So the results that I had at Junior Wimbledon was extra special, I think, because of that. But I then had a lot of fun when I was finishing off. So my last sort of 6 months of playing before I turned 19, I was captain of the Great Britain under-21 team, went over to Greece to play there. So I was playing captain, and that was a lot of fun. We had a good trip out there, successful one. And probably my most enjoyable tour that I did at all was 2 weeks over in Ireland, and was invited over to the Irish Open, the men's Irish Open, and managed to beat their number 3, 2 and 1 on the way to taking the title. So that was fun, and we played mixed doubles and men's doubles at the same time, and I played with another good friend, Robin Scott, who was number 1 in Scotland, and we won the men's doubles. So the next week was the under-21 Irish Open. And as a result of us doing so well in the men's one, they invited us back for the under-21s. And we went and did the same thing again. We cleaned up, so we managed to pick up some nice money. We had some good tennis. We had a party nearly every night, and it was just really nice social event. And by that time, I knew that I was about to stop playing and was going to have to start coaching. So that was really a nice way to finish my playing time.
What would you say, what were the main reasons for you stopping playing and deciding to go into coaching?
Pretty much financial. My parents were just normal working class people, and it had got where it was, even back then, Jack, and this was, we're only talking about 1983, it was probably costing around 10,000 a year. So that's a lot of money, and they'd been sacrificing everything for me up to that point. And made it clear that would be the last year that they would be able to afford to do that, and rightly so. So it was up to me to make the strides to be good enough, and I wasn't quite able to. I think physically I wasn't a great specimen. I was too thin, too skinny. I know it's tough to believe that now, but I was 6'2" at 12, and weighed next to nothing. So it was a combination of both. But I still went on and played some really nice tennis. Just to mention that, again, some of my other absolute favourite bits have been my county week stuff that I've done, both for Bucks and for Northants, where I've played first pair in Division 1 on the centre court at Eastbourne, beat a whole ranch of players that I'd never beaten before, and really, really enjoyed. There's special times when you play in a team, and I remember those really fondly.
And just for a bit of context here, County Week that Dad's referring to is the Summer County Cup. That's through the whole country. There are, I think, 7 different divisions, and especially in the top divisions, you get pro players coming back to play them. Both the Murrays have turned out for North of Scotland over the last couple of years at various different times. There are some serious players playing there. Getting 15 out of 15, so you play 3 matches a day for 5 days. Getting 15 out of 15 is something like a badge of honour in tennis. It doesn't get much better than that, especially on a national level.
Yeah, I don't think I quite managed it, unfortunately. Not quite. I think with Keith Gilbert, we managed 14 out of 15 in Division 2 to help to get Bucks up into Division 1. But no, unfortunately, that 15 eluded me.
I'm still trying to catch it. I got 14 last year, but that was in Division 4, so not quite the same level, but I've still got a few years left, so it'll be fun.
Not far away. Yeah, Division 4 is still a good level.
Yeah. So at the end of the playing career, if you're happy, we've covered that. So going into coaching now, tell me a bit about how quickly you got into that and the sort of work that you were doing.
Yeah. Okay. So I took my coaching exams as early as I possibly could. I did my level 1. We were lucky. We were, as a county squad, we were invited to take our level 1, and most of the kids did it at the same time. So I was only 17 when I got that, and then you had to wait a full year to do your level 2 back then, and I did that as quickly as I could. And I believe that I was the second youngest person to get fully qualified as a professional. So that would have been at the age of about 20, and I've never looked back, Jack. It's something I've been always felt very fortunate to be able to do for a living. It's something I absolutely love, bringing pleasure to a lot of people, helping people to get a little bit better. And now we're coming into the management of the centre here that we've been doing for 28 years now. just introducing thousands and thousands of children to the sport is wonderful to be able to look back and think of that. And again, working even now, I'm on court pretty much on a weekly basis with club level players, but being able to bring them more pleasure and see the improvement that these people make is fantastic.
So you raced through all your qualifications at a pretty young age, and you got as qualified as possible on the national circuit. And from what I remember, you then went to work on with national and international tennis for a little while.
Yeah. Again, just it's one of those old things, isn't it, of being in the right place at the right time. I was very lucky at very, very soon on. So I think I'd have been 21, and got invited to go to Bisham Abbey to work with the 14 and under Great Britain team. And did that for best part of a year, and then they were taking a new cohort of juniors into the National Tennis School, which was based at Bisham, and they were the boys that I'd just been working with in the international teams. So I was invited at that point. I was head pro at the Cumberland Club in London. It's one of the best outdoor clubs in the country. But I was then invited to go and work for the LTA as their full-time coach at the National Tennis School. And did that for 9 years, and as you say, worked with lots of the best players around, which was great. I got to take international teams away on a regular basis, with the likes of Tim Henman and most of the Davis Cup guys that have come through before this generation. But that was an absolute privilege to go there to work every day, and I look back on that extremely fondly.
And then, so once you finished with that sort of thing, was it straight up to Corby?
Yeah, it was absolutely. So in October '91, this was being built, and the guys that were running the place at the time wanted a couple. So your mum and I obviously came up together. They wanted one of the couple to have good tennis background, strong tennis background, and the other to be good on the administration, which your mum had been doing for a lot of years. And so it was almost a perfect package for us. I knew that, again, the body wasn't going to last forever. It's tough being on court for 6, 7, 8 hours a day with players of international level and having to run and hit with those all the time. So I knew that my body wasn't going to manage that for a lot longer. So was already starting to look into management when this opportunity came up. And originally we were only coming for 6 months, but we've ended up staying here now for 28 years, and you and your sister have come along in the process.
Yeah. So Corby's kind of gone from strength to strength, really, with starting in '91 and then kind of growing the business through, although it was owned by another company and kind of changed hands a few times. In 2011, I think it was, you and Mum decided to make a new company. Yeah,
well, the place had been threatened with closure, seriously with closure. We thought we could make a go of it ourselves. Obviously, we were well aware of what the business was like and where we thought we could make the suitable cuts and things. And yeah, I'm delighted to say that things are going really well. We've got over 300 kids on courses every week, and they're coming from Corby and all the surrounding villages. We've churned out a number of good performance players, good like yourselves, that have gone through and taken up university scholarships in America, that have represented Great Britain and represented England. We've produced a lot of good kids here, and so again, that just gives me so much pleasure to be able to look back on that, Jack. It's a lot of satisfaction that you can get from this job.
So the centre's now running as a not-for-profit business, and my dad and mum are still working hard to do that, along with the board of directors. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you've learnt a little bit more about my dad, the big boss, Craig Haworth. Thanks for tuning in, and let us know what else you'd like to see on the channel. Please give it a like or comment, any suggestions, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks very much, and see you next time.
Thank you.